Hello, welcome back. So today I'm going to do ND filters. This is the second time I've done this video. The first time I actually stopped it. I forgot to hit record on the screen when I did the settings. So doing this again, but it is a lot more cloudier today. So it's going to be a bit more challenging to get them settings into the drone to make it right for when we're doing the shutter speed and making sure that I get that motion blur right. So yeah, this will be a bit more different to being midday and it's red hot and it's really bright. So I go into a lot of detail with the aperture, which is the 2.8 for the Avata, then the ISO, and then the shutter speed. If you don't want all that garbage with the white balance, jump to this part in the video, the timestamp at the bottom there. It's in the description as well, and then we'll just put the settings into the drone and then away we go, and let's see what it looks like. So let's get into it. ND filters, I've got an ND64 here. I'm going to put that on the Pocket 3, so you'll see that it's slightly darker now, so it'll keep the whites in the picture rather than it just going and can't do anything with it. So I've come across a thing that's called exposure triangle. So we've got three things in that. So we've got shutter speed, we've got ISO, and then we've got aperture. And then the aperture in the Avata 2, this is what the video is all about, the Avata 2, is 2.8, I believe. So it's quite a large lens anyways, lets loads and loads of light in, and the name of the game is to try and keep that quality. So if you put the white balance too high, it just goes straight off the scale and you can't do anything with it, and it's just like a white, it's just like pointing the camera straight at the sun, you can't see nothing. So let's get started and let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing you really want to be thinking about if you're messing around with stuff like this is your white balance, because it's really sunny. So I'm going to set mine to about 5,500 kelvins. So I'm going to try and keep it up there, but not too high, so it just gets too saturated. So I'm going to keep that quite high up there. As you can see in previous footage that I've used, I haven't done D-Log M, and I've not put any filter on the ND filter or anything, and it's just, some of it looks washed out and I can't get the colours right, so just messing around.
Quickly go over the shutter triangle, as they call it. The aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO. So the aperture you can't change, and it's 2.8 aperture on the Avata, as you know. And then the shutter speed, we can adjust that. So like I said before, we're recording at 60 frames a second, so we want to double that, so that's going to be 100, it's 1/120. So shutter speed, in short, is the lower the number, the longer the exposure, and then the higher the number, the shorter the exposure. And then what that does is the lower number gives you more blur and action, and then the bigger number gives you the freezes of action, sort of, and it's kind of, you don't want that. So we kind of want to be in the middle. And then ISO, the lowest the number is, which ideally for us, that's what we want. We want less sensitivity to the light, where if you had the higher number, where when it's set in auto, it goes crazy, the ISO, because the settings that's baked into the Avata, trying to adjust all the settings to give you the best picture. So sometimes I've seen it up above 6,000. So we're going to try and keep that number down. So the lowest number you can go is 100. 400 is kind of what I'm aiming for, but I'm guessing it's going to be a bit lower than that. So yeah, so less sensitivity to the light.
You can set your shutter speed to 60 frames a second and 30 frames a second. Now, if you set your shutter speed to 30 frames a second, bear in mind, it's only sending 30 frames a second to your goggles, and that 30 seconds, it's dropping frames. So for example, if you're traveling at quite a speed down a gap, you misjudge it, that extra one frame can be that second of, or millisecond of where you're going to hit something, where you can't make the adjustment because you haven't got enough picture there, if you like, or enough frame rate. So I like to use 60 frames a second. So for that, so what we're going to do is we need to double that. So 1/120. So, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 1/120. So that will keep the shutter speed down. And then what that is, so the 1/120 is how fast per second the digital shutter will react. So 120, basically 120 per second, and then 30 you double that to 60. So if I'm wrong, hit me up in the comments. I can always revisit this, but fingers crossed I got that bit right. Done quite a bit of research with this, so that's that. So let's move on to the next thing. So currently the way I've got everything set up, everything's in auto in the AVATA, and motion blur doesn't look very natural, if that's the right term to say. It looks too fast and it's not quite right. And as I've done research about it, I can see by using the ND filters, you can change that. So you change the shutter speed. So the golden rule is I'm using 60 frames a second. You double that to 120, 1/120 on the shutter speed. So that'll allow the shutter to adapt and adjust. So your motion blur becomes nicer rather than it's adjusting all the time and auto adjusting in the drone. So that's what we're going to try and do. Okay, so let's jump into the goggles and put the settings in, and then we're going to put the ND filter on. So let's go. So press down on the goggles, on the button on the right hand side of your goggles. You can see across the top you got your recording. For me, I do screen recording, so 4 foot long or 1 along, you can see it's yellow. That's so I can screen record. So let's jump into the settings. I'm digressing again. So in mode, before you jump into there, you can see your ISO's 100, shutter's 320, white balance is 5400. That's because the goggles are trying to adjust to the light, and that goes up and down all the time. And what we want to do is lock that in to stop it from moving up and down, so we can get that shutter speed perfect with the ISO and the white balance, so we will get that nice motion blur. So let's jump across to manual, and now you'll see it's really bright. So we'll go to ISO. I'm going to leave that at 200 for now, and just see how we go. And then we've got shutter at 120. Remember, shutter speed is double what your frame rate is. I'm recording it to 60 frames a second, so double that, 1/120. That ISO is very bright, so we're going to bring that down. You see how it's a bit better. It's early in the morning, so we're going to go over to white balance. It's still like, it's about 7 in the morning, so that's still quite bright. Bring that down a little bit, I think 5000. You can see how it's starting to bring it down now, and then I'm not happy with that. We're going to go for like if it's daytime. So aspect is 16.9. remember, video quality is 60 frames a second, 4K, and I've got camera field of view at wide. I'm going to set that to ultra wide. You can put it to manual, you can put it to wide or normal. That's going to help with the motion blur, so we're going to move that over, and then lock this auto ISO to 200. That's the lowest you can go with the auto ISO. We're going to lock that so it don't shoot up and go crazy. So, and then I use Rocksteady, so it's nice and smooth, and then I've got D-Log M, so then I can post edit this. So now we're going to put ND filter on, so we're going to go out of here. So now that's set and ready, so I'm going to put the ND filter on now and see how that looks. So editing Craig is going to put a nice little shot of me putting the ND filter on. Let's go. So right, see you in a second. Okay, so these are ND filters for the Pocket 3. So we're going to just put this on before we do the test, and you see the difference. I'm using ND64 because it's quite sunny today. It's quite nice, but they magnet and they're just straight on, perfect, and you can see the difference straight away. So make sure you take the protective cover off the AVATA 2, and it's also switched off. As you can see, mine is switched off at the minute, and if you don't, this will be fighting against you. So it's the gimbal. So hold that top and bottom. We'll get that one out of the way, and then these are the ND filters. I'll go through them shortly. So we're going to use ND64. Make sure it's sat up looking at you. Let's put that down, and you'll see these little lips, top and bottom, and they're going to help hold it in place. So put your fingers on the top and bottom. Cats have come out to help, and then we're just going to slide that. You see the little lip on top and bottom, and slide that on the bottom lip and top lip, and that's it, clipped in. And then just do it in reverse. Just hold the top and the bottom and pull it off. It comes off in your hand. Now make sure you use the rag that comes with it if you've got one, or you'll need an anti-static rag to clean these, because when your fingertips they do make a mess. So all the settings are in. Let's go fly and see if we can get this motion blur to look better than it did originally at the beginning of the video. Did I put it at the beginning of the video? I can't remember now, but if I did, you'll see. And what I'll do is I'll do a little comparison here. So before settings and after, and see what it looks like, and see if we can make that motion blur look better with the settings that we put in the camera. So hopefully you can see, I can't see this, so hopefully it's come out well. It's the first time I've put these settings in the drone and flown with it. So hopefully with the ND8 and then the manual settings for the shutter and the ISO and the white balance, it's worked out well, and I'm going to continue doing it this way, but I won't know until I go to post edit. But you'll see the difference between auto and manual, and hopefully you'll start to do the same as what I've just done. And I'm going to start using these settings definitely to improve the video quality of my videos. Hit me up in the comments, let me know how you get on. I can always revisit this, I ain't got a problem. I try to get out at least twice a week, so I'm trying to learn manual mode, getting more confident with that, but that's for another video, because that's very interesting. So see you on the next one.